welcoming you to this information session for the STEM Plus for All Teaching Fellowship. And that is offered by the Patton College of Education at Ohio University. Fully accredited institution. There will never be any questions about the quality of the education that you receive from the Patton College at Ohio University. And I am Tasha Attaway, and my title is really, really long. It's something like Digital Recruitment and Retention Management, something, something, something. I work with our graduate online programs, and I'm here in a support capacity for the STEM Plus for All program coordinator, Dr. Ryan Pigman. And I am going to hand it over to Dr. Pigman. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you, Tasha, and thank you for everything you do for our program and for all of our grad programs. Really appreciate you. So as Tasha said, I'm Dr. Ryan Pigman. I'm the program coordinator for the STEM Plus for All program. We are about to start our third year of the program, and well, we'll get into how the program works and how it looks, but we're going to go over a lot of information in this short video session, and hopefully you've done a little bit of background which led you here, and you probably have some questions or you need some clarification on some things. So we're definitely going to set aside some time so that you can get all the information that you need, have your questions answered, and so you feel confident that this hopefully is the right program for you, and we can get started on your application. So again, as Tasha said, welcome. We're really excited that you're here. We do these virtual information sessions from time to time, depending on interest, and they're just a really great way for us to engage with people to get them interested in the program and get the word out about this amazing program that we have. So hopefully today you'll get to you get to meet Tasha and I. Sometimes on these information sessions, we include our our project manager, Dr. Julie Maynard. She couldn't be here today. From time to time, we're able to get some of our current participants to come in so that you can ask them questions and get their perspective on things. I contacted them, and unfortunately, they're all in classrooms during this time, and so they're not able to be with us today. If we do, we are definitely going to have more of these information sessions, and we'll try to do some in the evening as well, and that'll make it more likely that some of our current participants can attend. Just like the slide says, we're hoping that you'll get the information you need about the project, the STEM Plus for All program, and the 3 different majors that are available through the program. And then we could talk about the master's in education and how that leads to licensure in the state of Ohio. And you can really begin to imagine your future as a special educator with master's degree and a teaching license at the end of this program, which typically takes anywhere from 16 to 18 months. Tasha loves to point out that Ohio University is a leader in online education, and that we've been rated #1 by U.S. News & World Report as being a best value in public education. And the interesting thing about this is that the special education program, we actually decided to move to an online format before the coronavirus happened and before all the, the shutdowns, all the things that we're required to do now. So we have been very intentional in designing our programs to be very high quality and engaging and clinically rich. So I just wanted you to know that and put that out there, that this is not something that we shifted and we were scrambling to do to go online. And we've been very intentional about doing this for several years. So we have an amazing special education faculty, and these are some of the faces of the folks that you would be engaging with in your coursework. Ms. Perry Ann Bates teaches a number of courses in our program. Dr. Danielle Feeney is an assistant professor of instruction. Diane Goot-Zippert is she has a lot of titles. She is the assistant chair of the teacher education department, and she is actually the coordinator of all of our graduate programs. Dr. Jennifer Newton is an assistant professor in our program, and she is actually in charge of the undergraduate programs in special education. There's a terrible picture of me, Ryan Pigman. I am an assistant professor of instruction and again, the STEM Plus for All program coordinator. And there's Dr. Maynard. that I referred to earlier, our program manager, who is frequently on these calls as well to help answer questions and facilitate discussion. So those are just some of the friendly faces of the program. And then we actually have the great benefit of having these partners in the College of Education itself, in the Patton College. And we call this our E-Student Success Team. So you've already met Tasha, who is amazing and a great collaborator. And then also would love to introduce you to, well, Lisa Dale's picture. She is our assistant director of online and outreach programs. She's kind of our go-to guru for a lot of problem solving, and Lisa and Tasha both are just a huge help for our program, and so we're really happy to have their support. Okay. So like I said, you've probably done a little bit of background, and which has led you to being able to attend today on the STEM Plus for All program. So we use a teaching fellowship model. So that means that you are going to be in the program. You would be in clinical placements throughout the entire program, working with students with disabilities, engaging with mentor teachers and being supported by them, veteran teachers. We use a cohort model. So we are trying to fill out cohorts of 14. And so all of the people in your cohort, you would be taking many of the same classes and moving through the program together. And so we have found in our first 2 cohorts that we've really been able to create a sense of community, that people are really forming groups and friendships within the cohort, and they're actually very cohesive. And so they do projects together, they study together, they bounce lesson plans ideas off of each other. So if that's something that interests you, that idea of community and going through the program together, this is a great program for you. Within each of the majors, which we'll talk about in a minute, there's about 23 different courses over that 16 to 18 months for a total of 74 credit hours. On average, during any given semester, your course load would be anywhere from 15 to 22 hours. And Tasha is dropping in the chat the program website for the STEM Plus for All program. Thank you, Tasha. All of our coursework for the program is online. So any of the classes that you have associated with getting your degree in special education, those would all be online courses. So you would never have to come to Athens or any of our branch campuses, although we would love to see you. Again, as I mentioned, we have been very intentional about this shift to putting our graduate programs online. So we were really proud of the engaging learning activities that we have. And we really do feel like we are leaders in this field in online education. As I mentioned, one of the important pieces of this program is getting you into classrooms right away. So your very first semester, you will have a placement. You'll be in a classroom. I think it's roughly about 20 hours a week. And engaging again with students with disabilities, depending on your major, the types of disabilities would vary, and the support needs that those students would need would vary. That you would be engaging with a mentor teacher throughout the entire program, a different mentor teacher at different points along the program, and getting their support. But that's one thing that we have found is that a lot of times in our undergraduate programs, students go through the program and they get into it, and then their third year or so they start getting into classrooms and they're figuring out, hey, you know what, I don't really think this is for me. So it's really important that we get students or we get teacher candidates into classrooms immediately and get you doing that work and making sure that this is the field for you. All of our majors at the end of the program culminates in what we call a master's research project. Back in the old days, we used to call it a thesis, and there are actually some different options now that are available for master's candidates. It doesn't have to be such a strict and rigorous thesis type project that now I think we're doing more like portfolio projects and things like that. But this is your opportunity to do some action research, and a lot of our candidates are engaging in action research, so they're able to collect data in their classrooms, in their placements, in those clinical placements, to further their master's research project. So that's just a quick snapshot of what it looks like to be in the program. As I said, you have the option of choosing one of the 3 different special education majors that we offer to graduate students for their master's degree. And the first one is the mild to moderate educational needs. So this would get you a master's degree with licensure for teaching students K-12 with specific learning disabilities, mild cognitive disabilities, and emotional disturbance. And so that's one track that gets you the mild to moderate K-12 license in the state of Ohio. The second option available is the moderate to intensive educational needs, which again is K-12. The program is master's degree with licensure in moderate to severe intellectual disabilities and possibly some multiple disability classrooms as well. And then the other choice that is much different than the first 2 is the early childhood intervention specialist, and we abbreviate that ECIS. So this gives you a master's degree with then licensure in the state of Ohio for teaching children with disabilities in pre-kindergarten grades through grade 3. So as you see, the mild to moderate and the moderate to intensive master's program and licensure program are K-12, which would enable you to teach anywhere in that K-12 range. However, the ECIS license is very specific and it's more for preschool through age 3. So it's with the younger set.
And I actually have to make one correction to this slide. It is PK through grade 5 now, and that is to accommodate the recent licensure updates that the Department of Education did.
Right, absolutely. Yes, the Ohio Department of Education has changed that early childhood to go all the way up to grade 5. That's right. Thank you, Tasha. I appreciate that. So this slide, it just talks about some of the courses, the types of courses that are offered in each of those 3 majors. And so this is more general. It's not necessarily completely specific to the STEM Plus for All program, but we take about 3 or 4 courses in just teacher education, and that's like the teacher education core. We do 18 hours in just special education core. And then there are courses that are specific for each of those majors. So there are courses that only mild to moderate, only moderate to intensive, and only those early childhood intervention specialist candidates take. But everybody takes the teacher ed core and everybody takes the special ed core. So if, let's say in your cohort of hopefully 14, you might have some folks in there that are getting the mild to moderate license and some folks that are getting the early childhood license. You would be in about, I would say 75 to 80% of the same courses because they're those teacher ed core and special ed core courses. But then the folks that are in those specific majors would be taking those other courses that are just specified for those particular majors. And then we also have basic instructional methods courses that everybody takes as well. As I said, you can count on, depending on the semester, anywhere from 15 to 22 hours. And if that sounds like a lot, it is. This is a rigorous program. This is not, I'm not going to beat around the bush. This is not an easy walk in the park. I'm just going to do this for fun kind of program. It is rigorous and it is a lot of work for some of the semesters, because on top of that 15 or more hours of coursework, you are also going to be engaging in at least 20 hours a week, in a clinical experience. Now, the good thing about it is that we, in our coursework, rely on that clinical experience. So we're counting on the fact that our candidates are in a clinical experience, and we design our assignments and projects and things around things that you can look for and see and do in those clinical experiences. So I always think that we should lead with this information. This should be our first slide because people like to see that if you're accepted into the STEM Plus for All Teaching Fellowship, you will receive a stipend of over $27,000, and that will be spread out. It'll be in 3 different payments throughout the span of your program, and that money comes from the U.S. Department of Education. We are a grant-funded program from the U.S. Department of Ed in a Teacher Quality Partnership grant. And so we call this a cost of living stipend to help offset your some of your cost of living while you're changing careers and getting this new degree. We know that that's not easy, that you have a lot of things going on, whether that be a job, family, taking care of kids, whatever it might be. We know that you have lives outside of school, and so we want to be able to support you through the program financially, as well as all of the other ways that we offer. Hi, Jill. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, you're good. We're recording it, so you can always go back and check it out later.
Okay, thank you.
So on top of the $27,450 that you would receive as just being in our cohort, there are also other financial aid options available to you. There's a stipend of up to $8,000 from the Teach grant. And of course, based on whatever financial need you might have, the Office of Financial Aid here at Ohio University would also let you know what other financial aid you qualify for. We do ask that all of our participants do fill out a FAFSA, which is the Federal Financial Aid Form, so that the Office of Financial Aid just has that information on file. Tasha, do you want to talk any more about the Teach grant? I know that you are much more versed in that than I am.
Well, the gist of the Teach grant is it is the equivalent of a federal Stafford loan, but it is in grant form because the area that you're studying is an area where teachers are needed. And so the FAFSA actually is the application for the Teach grant, and they determine the eligibility for it. You would receive it as a financial aid award along with just I'm so sorry. I'm texting right now with someone who's trying to get into the meeting.
Oh, okay.
But the heart of the matter is the Teach grant. It is a grant. However, if you don't meet the parameters of the grant, and those are basically staying within the special education area and teaching in an area of high need, if you don't meet those two parameters after you graduate, then it would convert into a loan and it would need to be repaid. But as long as you meet the parameters of it, it does not have to be repaid.
Great. Thank you, Tasha. And I do know, the little bit I do know about the Teach grant is that it is $4,000, I think, per academic year. And so you could get $4,000 in the first academic year and then another $4,000 in that second academic year that you're involved in the program. We can address individual questions about financial aid later, but we're going to keep moving along. There are a couple of post-graduation commitments that I want to be very upfront about, because I don't want you to get too far down this road if you're not willing to accept a couple of these stipulations. So as we go through this, oh good, we've got someone else joining. Welcome. So we have a partner in Central Ohio. They're an educational service center in Central Ohio in the Columbus area that helps us with our placements for all of our candidates. And upon successful completion of the program, they would like to hire you. Ideally, if things go well and you're a good candidate and everything is square, they would want to hire you. And actually, they sort of have almost kind of the right of first refusal. So ideally, right out of the program after graduation and getting your licensure, you would work for that ESC for 3 years. After that 3 years, you have fulfilled your requirements for the grant, and you could do anything that you wanted. Ideally, you might stay with the ESC. If, however, things don't work out and the ESC passes and decides that they don't want to pick you up, which does happen, or if there's for some reason you don't want to stay in that area, the only stipulation we have as far as satisfying the commitments for the grant is that you work in a high need school for 3 years following completion of the program. Once you do that, again, just like the Teach grant, it is a grant. That money is granted to you and it's yours. However, if you don't meet those benchmarks following the program, then there are some repayment things that would have to fall into place. So I just want you to know that right away, that you would be signing an agreement that's saying that you were going to do those things, and we can cover all of that more later if you're interested in talking about that. If that's not an option for you, you're cool staying in the Columbus area for the next 3 years after the program, then let's not even worry about it. As part of the, oh, Tasha, can you go back? I'm sorry. I just wanted to finish up the another thing that we're going to ask you to do as part of graduates or completers of the program is to participate in any professional development that we might provide for those ESC teachers in schools, and just ask that you attend those things as well. And those would be to support you as a professional. Some of the benefits that you get from the STEM Plus for All program is some micro credentials in computer and information technology that are actually created by our program. You get that two practicum experiences early in the program. So like, as I said, you're put into a classroom right away. You're engaging with students. You have a 1 year long internship in the Columbus area. And that is what we used to call student teaching. We now call it a professional internship. As I said, assistance in securing employment as an intervention specialist. So that's the ESC hiring you right out of the program, which is a really great benefit knowing that that's there. And one of the things that I frequently remind our participants of is that as you're going through those clinical experiences, you're engaging with hopefully with your colleagues, your future colleagues. And then once you complete the program, you're hired by the ESC. There is a 2-year induction program because we have found that a lot of teachers in their first couple of years of teaching, they leave the profession because they don't feel fulfilled, they don't feel satisfied. There's a lot of stress that comes with those first couple of years of teaching. So you would be in an induction program supporting you as a teacher and making sure that you have all the resources and support you need in order to be successful, because we don't want you to go through this program and then not be there to serve the kids that need you, right? That's the whole point behind this program, is to create more special educators so we can get kids the services they need. Okay, Tasha, now we're ready. So I told you about the stipend that you get with just being in the program. There is one, I don't want you to think of that as a tuition waiver. So we don't waive your tuition. You would still be required to pay your tuition, but the stipend can be used to just offset your tuition if that's how you choose to do it. So you can see in this list, starting in, let's see, summer, fall, spring, summer. Yeah, so this is a chart we use for people that start in the summer semester. Ideally, you would be starting in the spring, which starts in January. But just as an example, you can kind of use, let's look at actually fall 2021. You'll be taking 6 courses for 21 credit hours. The tuition cost for that is, as you see, a little under $5,000. Because you're over 18 hours, which is the maximum that is allowed for Masters for Graduate students, you're over that by a few hours. You have to pay the difference because, well, that's how the university is. So there's another $1,000 that's added on there. There's a program fee of $315, and then you see again your total of a little over $6,000. So anyway, when you begin to add up all of the money that you would have to put out in order to pay your tuition, it is still less than the $27,450 that we pay participants in that living wage stipend. And this chart doesn't include anything that you might have in the way of Teach Grant or additional financial aid. So no matter when you start the program, you still come out ahead. You will still end up receiving more money than you owe for the program.
And just one thing I'd like to throw out, because the STEM Plus funds are received as a stipend, if there were any problem with the timing of the issue of the stipend funds versus the timing of the bill being due, the university also offers a payment plan so that you wouldn't be basically on the hook for that one full lump sum of money at one time. You could do the payment plan and space that out monthly so that you can coordinate that and make sure that the stipend funds and any Teach Grant funds are received in time for you to make those bill payments.
Good point, Tasha. Thank you. And we do really try to make those, have those payments hit the account, hit your student account before tuition is due. So if that's how you choose to use that money, then that's your business. So now is a great time to have any of your questions answered or any concerns that you have. A lot of the topics that we end up answering are, things about benefits of the program or how the courses are sequenced. I'm happy to share information about those things. If you have concerns about the costs of the program or you want some more details, I can definitely help you out there. Tasha is more of an expert on the application, but I can help out with that as well. So if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat. You're welcome to raise your hand or unmute and just let it rip. We can be really informal here since we have such a small group. And probably people have similar questions, right? So don't be afraid to engage and get your questions answered. Hi, Jill. I see you have your hand up.
Yeah.
Why don't you go first?
Yeah, I had a couple questions here. When you say there are 2 practicum and then 1 year internship, does that internship take place during while we're still in school during the master's program, or is that post graduation?
So that internship is what we used to call student teaching, and we now call it a professional internship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so that actually happens. We have totally redesigned the student teaching or the internship experience for this project. And so you would be attending 20 hours a week, which would be a part-time, 1-year-long internship.
Okay.
So typically, it works differently in typical situation, but for this program, we've completely redesigned that. So you would be taking, your coursework for anywhere probably 15 hours a week, and then you'd also be engaging in your internship about 20 hours a week as well. I also want to just say something really quick that you just reminded me of, Jill. For many people in our program now and in our first cohort, the ESC actually ends up hiring a lot of our participants as teachers' aides or paraprofessionals. And so they're able to, I sort of say it in air quotes, like double dip. So they can actually get paid for going in and being a teacher's aide in those ESC schools while also getting credit for the hours that are required for those early field experiences and internship experiences, which is a really great option. So if that's something that you're concerned about, if you already have a job or a part-time job, that's something that we can talk to the ESC about as well. It's another benefit of the program.
Yeah, I already work for ESC. I'm starting my 6th year as a paraprofessional. So awesome. I'm already there.
All right, great.
I did have one more question. Now I cannot remember it. I will think about it because I lost my train of thought.
All right, that's fine. And just if you want to put your hand down, and if you think about it again, you can put it back up. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Sure, thank you. What else?
Stephanie posted a question in the chat asking if you have already taken some education classes, are they counted toward the program?
So we have done that in the past. There are some requirements about how recently those classes were taken and how well they dovetail with the requirements for the particular major that you would choose. So I can't tell you definitively yes or no, but if they were within the past couple of years, it's definitely a possibility.
But I do believe that there is a limit to the number of credits that the university allows. And unless I'm mistaken, that limit is a total of 8 credit hours.
Okay, that sounds about right as far as what I know too. Thanks, Tasha. Hi, Margarita. I think I see you have your hand up.
Yes. So I am currently a paraprofessional in a school that I'm not sure if they're part of the ESC. It's in Gahanna.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then would it still be able to fulfill that clinical experience, or would I need to do those in the ESC?
So, right, as part of the program, because we're partners with them, it is required that we do the placements in their schools. So if your school is, if they partner with the ESC as well, there might be a way that you could stay at that same school, at least for some of the clinical experiences. What we want to do, though, is make sure that you're getting a variety of clinical experiences, especially since if you were to choose like the MM or the MI license, those are K-12. So we want to make sure that you have a diversity of experience at different age levels, grade levels, whatever, and also with students that have differing needs as well. We want to make sure you get that diversity of experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. And it looks like, Margarita, it looks like you still have your hand up. If you want to. Thanks.
And just based on a conversation that I had with someone who was interested in learning more, Ryan, can I ask you to talk a little bit about the experience of a special educator, basically what it's like to be a teacher in a special education classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. And it's also a really hard one to answer because when you think about those three different majors that you can choose from, you're working with a variety of different and a much varied ages, ability levels, types of disabilities and needs that students have at those different ages and ability levels. But I can share with you my personal experience. I have the mild to moderate educational needs license, and I taught in the Athens City Schools for 7 years as an intervention specialist, mostly at the elementary level. And it is really dependent, a lot of it, on what the environment is in the school where you're teaching. So at the school I worked at, we practiced a lot of inclusion, which is where I, as the special educator, would go into a general educator's classroom, and we would sometimes do a lot of co-teaching, or it might be something where I'm just there kind of floating around and supporting. Well, I'm supporting my students, but I'm also supporting anyone that needs help. Co-teaching is a really great model for supporting students that are struggling maybe with just a particular concept, that just need that little bit of extra support to get them over the hump. But I would have students that have IEPs in classrooms, and I would go into those classrooms and visit them for more targeted skills, or my students that had like more higher needs. I would pull them out I had a resource room where I did small group work, individual work, working on individual skills that were identified in students' IEPs. A lot of being a special educator too is writing IEPs, being involved in teams, engaging with parents to make sure that everything is communicated clearly, and a lot of times being a sounding board. I had a lot of general educators that would come to me and say, I have this kiddo that's struggling, and can you recommend any interventions for me? And so getting people resources and services they need is something that would be part of that role as well. So that's just my experience. Now that's going to vary depending on, again, as I said, like what grade level you are, what the needs of your students are. And the interesting thing is too that no one day is ever the same when you're a special education teacher, and no one school year is ever the same, because as kids move on and you get a new batch of kids, no two groups are ever going to be the same, no two students are ever the same. So if you like that type of change and freshness in your work, then this is a great field for you. What other questions do you have? I wish we had one of our participants here, because it's such a rich conversation, because you can ask them like, hey, what's it like, when you have 22 hours of courses and internship and whatever, how does that work? What does that look like? And they can really tell you about their day and what a typical week looks like in the eyes of a participant. So I'm sorry that they couldn't be here today to tell you.
I thought of my other question.
Okay, great, Jill.
The application, I know the deadline is December 1st, I believe. But is it open right now?
Yes, that application is open right now.
Is open, okay.
Deadline is December 1st. And I will put a link to the application in the chat as well.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thanks, Tasha.
I'll also quickly scrounge up a link to a previous information session that we hosted where some of the current participants were able to attend, so that you can hear directly from them.
That would be great. And that's also on, that one might be linked on our website too, on the link that Tasha posted in the chat earlier. Let me tell you a little bit, since nobody seems to have any questions right now, a little bit more detail about what the program looks like and how things would work. So right now you would be filling out your application and be submitting that by that deadline of December 1st. And then sometime during December, we review applications. At that point, you would be notified that you've been accepted to the program. We, at that point, then provide you with a bunch of information, that participant agreement that we have you sign, the scope and sequence of all the courses that you would be taking. We provide you with all that financial information so that you can make your budget or whatever you need to do in order to make this work over the next 18 months. And then we give you the directions on how to schedule for courses. So then you go in and do that. You would schedule for your courses for the spring semester, and that would start, I think it's like the first or second week in January. I don't have the date in front of me. The first semester of courses, I think there are probably three or four classes I think that you would be taking, plus you would be signed up for a practicum experience, is what we call them in graduate school. Typically I supervise any of the practicum experiences for all of our programs at the graduate level. So I would be your supervisor for that class, for that practicum. What we would do is we would work with the ESC to find you a placement in one of their schools. And in that particular semester, that looks more like maybe spending a little bit more time observing, right? Like being in the classroom and seeing how the classroom functions and what the environment is like, what the context is where you are, working with the mentor teacher, and over the course of that semester, writing some of your very first lesson plans, right? So I think we usually require like 4 lesson plans that you would submit to your mentor teacher and get some feedback on, and then be able to actually teach those lessons, and then sit down with the mentor teacher afterwards and get some feedback on them. Well, what went well, and how could you have improved? And we'll have a lot of discussions about very practical things in our seminar that we have for the practicum. So then that's the spring semester, and that ends usually like late April, early May. And the cool thing about that is that the K-12 academic year still goes on usually into early June. So at that point, you will sign up for another practicum, which would be in the summer session at OU, but really the spring is still going on in the K-12 world, right? So you would continue either in that placement that you have, or if possible, we might actually pop you into another classroom with a different mentor teacher so you could get that variety or that diversity of experience that I was referring to earlier. And you would just stay in that classroom until the school year ends. So usually that's a couple of weeks. That might just give you a little bit more time in the classroom. And then over the summer, we partner with another group called the PAST Foundation, P-A-S-T Foundation. And they're a nonprofit that support districts with all kinds of science and technology coursework for K-12 learners. So They typically have camps that they run for different districts. Sometimes they're, usually they have like a STEM theme to them. So we would pair you up with the teachers at the PAST Foundation, and you would be engaging either in person or virtually in the Columbus area in these STEM camps over the summer. This past summer, we worked with the PAST Foundation and the Whitehall City Schools. If there are any folks that are in Columbus now, if you know Whitehall. I know we have a couple of Columbus folks here. So Whitehall City Schools basically used the PAST Foundation to support some of their learners that were struggling, that because of COVID, were really lost some skills over last school year. And so this was kind of an alternative to summer school or extended school year services. And so they actually had a great experience working with those Whitehall City School teachers that had been trained by the PAST Foundation to implement these camps over anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. So we do that over the summer. You'll be taking courses over the summer. And then in the fall of the following year, usually it's late August, you would start your third semester at Ohio University. You'd be taking a full load of courses and be starting that professional internship, that year-long part-time professional internship, that you would get that placement in one of the ESC schools. And there you would be all year long, all school year long. So through the fall semester and the spring semester, taking courses, doing 20 hours a week in the classroom. And then at that point, at the end of that spring semester, so you go through the fall, you've got that little winter break in there, you go into the spring semester, new set of courses, still continuing with the internship, and then at the end of the spring, again, late April, early May, you have all of the clinical experiences behind you, and then you just have a few courses to finish up over the summer, wrap up your master's research project, and then at the end of the summer, you would be your degree would be conferred. You would apply for your teaching license and take any of the necessary tests through the Ohio Department of Education. And then that fall, be hired by the ESC, hopefully, and there you would be as an intervention specialist, fully licensed with a master's degree. So when you think about it like that, program goes really fast. I've noticed that our participants say how time goes really, really fast, and they can't believe that our first cohort, they couldn't believe that they were done already, and now they're in the classroom, they're teaching, they're fully licensed teachers with a master's degree behind them. So it's a really great program. There are a lot of options for special education teachers. So after that 3 years, and if you've done your service, you could probably go literally almost anywhere and find a job in special education if that's something that interests you. It is such a highly sought after degree and license and position. There's just a huge need right now.
And if I may also add to that point, that Ohio University provides ongoing career support to our alumni through the Central Career it used to be the CLDC, the Career and Leadership Development Center. They recently underwent a reorganization and the name has changed slightly, but the services have not. Every year there is a teacher recruitment fair. There are different job fairs that happen throughout the year, and those are all open to all current students as well as alumni. So once you become an Ohio University student, you have that support for life as an alumnus. And as well, our special education program faculty are very well networked, and people know us. They know the strong reputation of our program, and schools reach out to us when they have openings. So for example, we have a special education Bobcats group on our from our Facebook that Dr. Zipper moderates, and whenever there are openings that people reach out to us where they're looking for intervention specialists, we will share that information there on that site and on that page, and we make sure that our alumni stay informed about opportunities that are available. So it's an ongoing thing. So one of our previous program coordinator faculty members said that we have a 100% job placement rate. And I don't have any reason to doubt that, because there is such a great need and our program is so well respected in the area.
Yeah, that's all very true. I see Stephanie put a question in the chat about our courses day or evening. That's a great question. I really should have that in part of one of the slides being addressed. So the problem with that question is it's really hard to answer. Some of the courses will be offered in an asynchronous manner. So you might have information that has been recorded or that you would read, and then you would go in and complete activities and projects or whatever, sometimes working in groups or partners. Some of your courses would be conducted synchronously, where there would be a time that would be set up by the instructor. A lot of our courses, especially in the grad programs, are pretty small. So a lot of instructors will send out like a doodle poll or something like that saying, hey, when is everyone free? And then pick a time that is applicable to the most people. And then that's the time you'll have class. You'll have some courses that meet every week. You'll have some courses that meet, maybe 5 or 6 times throughout the semester. It's going to be different for different courses. Also, for some of your courses, they might be like both synchronous and asynchronous, right? Like you might have work that you would do, information you would look at or resources you would check out before you go to like a synchronous session, where then you'll maybe do some activities or have discussion, talk about it. Some weeks it might be synchronous, some weeks it might be asynchronous. But typically they're either going to be in the evening, as that's when most people are free. Most of the people in our graduate programs work, and we understand that. And so we try to be as flexible as we can, offering our classes in the evening. I'm not aware of anyone at least in the special education program, that offers any of the grad programs during the day, because so many people in our programs are teachers or they're paraprofessionals or whatever. And so we try to be as accommodating as possible. That's a good question. What other kind of information can I provide? What's holding you back from getting off of this meeting and filling out the application right now?
I had a question about summers, and like I listened to another information session that mentioned that sometimes you have cohorts that start in the summer, or you would like join the cohort in the summer. Can you talk a little bit more about that, if that's still an
Yes.
option?
Another great question that I really should address. Tasha, we need to make some changes to our PowerPoint here. Yeah, thanks, Marguerite. There are 2 entry points into our program. Cohorts start in January. They start in the spring semester. However, if there's still room in the cohort, we do allow people to, we do admit people in the summer in order to fill up our cohort. So if you choose to apply, there is no, I'm applying for summer. What we'll do is admit you for spring. However, if we don't fill up the cohort, we don't have 14, and then we still are getting applications, then we would be able to admit you for a summer start. Ideally, spring is better because the coursework is much more manageable. When you start in the summer, you're taking 5 semesters of coursework in 4 semesters, and that is very, very difficult. So I highly, highly recommend not trying to do that option. I know that it's a whole nother semester, but it's going to be really in the long run a lot better.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And just one little note on the application. I put it in the chat, but I just want to make sure that I mention that one of the things that we want you to do is to make sure that on your application that you indicate that you are interested in the STEM Plus program. And because it is, because we have the same 3 majors as the traditional special education program, basically we have a little workaround to indicate your interest in this one, and that is to make sure that you enter the term STEM Plus in the administrative use box at the bottom of page 1 of the application. For right now, that's the best way that we have to make that designation. So please be sure to enter that on the bottom of page 1. The application can be a little complicated. Just a little bit. And if anyone needs any assistance working their way through that, I'm here to help. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach me at elearning@ohio.edu or specialeducation@ohio.edu. I try to keep my eyes everywhere. So if you just cry out for help, I'll be sure to find you and reach out. Um, the other thing is that the application does require a transcript from your other college or university, whatever institutions you have attended. And so we do require an official transcript to have the application become complete for an official admission. But if you just wanted to get the application done and you already have a copy of your transcript in your possession, you can put that, attach that unofficial transcript, and that will be sufficient to evaluate your application. And then that way, excuse me, excuse me, we would just need to have an official transcript before before the end of your first semester of classes.
Yeah, basically just a confirmation that what you sent us was legitimate. Hi, Jill.
Hi, a question about that. If I'm currently an OU student. I'll be graduating in December with my BA. But I had transfer credits from a couple other universities. Do I still need the official from the other universities, or is it okay for OU to supply everything?
In your specific case, I feel confident that Graduate College will be able to transfer your previous transcripts, but I will get confirmation of that from Graduate College. And if there is any issue at all, we will let you know. But you don't have to make a request for your Ohio transcript. You just want to make sure that you indicate that you are graduating from Ohio University, and we'll make that request to the registrar's office.
Okay, and then the letters of recommendation, is there a way to upload those? I have, hard copies or PDFs that were sent to me. Do I include those as well with the application?
Yes, there is a spot on the application.
Okay.
You can upload those supplemental materials. And if you have any problems at all, just let me know and we'll work through it. And Stephanie had asked a question in the chat before she got popped out. And said that she teaches music lessons in the afternoon and evenings. Is there a way to work around that type of work schedule?
Yeah, another great question. And another question I feel like I'm going to have to waffle on. I think that it's going to depend on each semester, right? The good thing is that at the beginning of each semester, you'll be able to figure out what your schedule is going to be. It's not all of your sessions are going to be planned out at the beginning of the semester. So it's not like you're going to be in the middle of a semester and your instructor is going to say, hey, we're going to have class next week and at 7 in the evening. You're going to know that, right at the beginning. So you should be able to get that schedule and then plan your music lessons around that. But you're going to be very busy too if you're doing a lot of those music lessons and doing this full time. So, Stephanie, what type of music do you teach?
I teach piano and voice.
All right. You want to do a little something for us?
I don't have it set up right now because it's a lot harder in the apartment than it is in the studio. So.
Oh, you have a studio. Nice. Well, it's too bad because if you belted something awesome out, like think how many people would come and watch this video. You could really help me out here.
Probably could.
Well, I would say if nobody has any other questions, I would definitely want to be respectful of your time and let you all go. I'm really happy that everyone was here, that we had a good group and we had some really great questions. I hope you have all the information you need. this is, again, I want to just reiterate, this is a great program, and it's an awesome opportunity to basically get a free master's degree and your teaching license in the state of Ohio, to become an intervention specialist, and to really be helping our most vulnerable learners that need people like you in their classrooms. So I strongly urge you that if you are thinking about applying, you have nothing to lose by going ahead and applying, although I think there is an application fee. But we would definitely love to have you in the program and take a look at your application. So if you have any questions, you can contact Tasha with those email addresses. You can contact me directly if you want. It's pigman@ohio.edu. I normally don't give that out on one of these, but definitely, I want to make sure that if you have all the information you need to make a good decision here, because we would really like to have you in the program. Tasha, what am I forgetting?
You mentioned that there is an application fee, and you are correct. There is a $50 application fee. Unfortunately, that fee is non-refundable, but that basically is your investment, your monetary investment in the program, because again, you will be receiving a stipend and other aid that will exceed that cost of tuition. So it's a good investment.
Yep, definitely.
And Carlin, I really want to call you out if you have any questions at all. You haven't said anything at all.
Sorry. No, I've had questions, but then other people, I just got to them first. You've answered really everything.
Great.
Excellent. Okay, everyone, we hope to hear from you. We hope to be reviewing your application soon. If there's anything we can do, please contact us.